Okay, so once again, welcome everybody for this 2022 general information session, specific later on, more towards the CDC informational session for the upcoming CDC season. So we'll start with the agenda. We're going to look at the club culture protocols, general info, pathways, 2022 CDC structure, program details and format, player placement for practices and games. That's a new area this year. Player evaluations, also a new area. The CDC competition format with its changes this year, another new area. The CDC and the staff schedules, pretty much done, a bit tentative. We have a good idea, but we'll discuss it later on. Discuss the registration process and the dates, and then we'll finish with the question and answers. So again, we always start with the club vision and philosophy. I'll leave it up here so you could look. Basically, this is in every presentation, and since I've been here, and with our licensing with Soccer Canada and Soccer Quebec, this is what we try to adhere to throughout. Okay, our vision, our mission, our values. And ultimately, we're trying to align with, starting at the CDC, we're trying to align with the rest of the country in terms of providing a fun and safe environment for development and contribute to more players playing soccer for as long as possible in the best possible environment. Again, all this will be up online if you want to go through it. It's documented and it will be in this video, so I won't leave it up too long. This, again, we do this, we've had this meeting, but we need to reiterate at the beginning of every season, documents from Soccer Quebec, Soccer Canada, especially for a provincial level club like us, adhering to certain criteria, no solicitation of players, no fake advertising, and those are the two main ones, okay? There'll be slides that we'll discuss a bit more, but we have a process in place in terms of cooperating with other clubs, and the whole player movement process is more structured now. So these are the two big areas that we try not to do. Nothing wrong with promoting the club, but again, it's has to be done in a positive way, not at the detriment of others or trying to poach or steal players. So something we always need to remind our staff and our parents about. I see some people are coming in. Andrew, you have that?
Yeah, I got it. No problem.
Yeah. Again, player movement protocol. This is all on our website, and I'll scroll through it in the video. I won't go through all of it. I'll let you, look at it. The whole idea, though, behind this whole thing is that at certain ages, you might have an increased movement of players. It's normal, but any player movement should be done with the player's best interest in mind. So that's like the main point. We're trying to get away from the days where at 9 years old or at 10 years old, you see a good player and you're, messaging them on Facebook and waiting for the parents in the parking lot. Like stuff like that has happened, which is what prompted the whole reform. Basically now, players, especially at U12 and under, should only be moving for, valid reasons, which is, they move, they change cities, it's geographic location, or the current club they're in doesn't offer a service they're looking for. For example, they don't have a CDC, or they only have a CDC once a week. So these are all, it's more geared towards this reasoning than oh, it's a strong player, let me try to go poach them. So there's a process in place that all the clubs need to abide by, that there's forms that are filled out. We need to speak with the parents. The whole process is on our website, and there's an open communication between the TDs to see if it's really the best solution for the player to move at different ages. Okay, at U13, U14, okay, a bit more movement occurs, even though it's not necessarily something that we should be looking at. It's it's a bit more in terms of, again, geographic location, the service you're looking for. But if a player has an ability to play at a higher level, which the club's responsibility to kind of push them to it, or inform them about his options, and it's not really relevant to us at U13, U14 because LDP and PLSJQ are on the same level in terms of elite level or higher level soccer. It's more for clubs that are regional or clubs or soccer de qualité clubs that don't have that, and they have players who can be playing at an LDP or at a higher level. Okay. And at U15 and over, it's a bit more flexible in terms of their really, if you feel a player should be playing at a higher level, you should push them, but there's still a communication between clubs to see if that really is the best solution for the players. So it's not just go to a club that has PLSJQ and then the player goes and he doesn't play. He plays like 5 minutes or whatever. So this is all stuff that needs to be communicated in the whole process. This, again, some of you we've updated this. This is now officially in our club licensing. It's on our website also. It's important to see the pathway that that the whole soccer scope of whether it's the club level, the regional level, provincial level. This is the player pathway now, okay, in Canada basically. So this explains what a path that a player can go and what he's offered at the different ages and the different governing bodies. Okay, so you'll see at the club level is what we offer. Okay, what select programs start occurring at certain ages, at the provincial level, at the professional level, at the national level, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so it's on our website. It's clear. I think it's very important to see the whole scope of things as an overview. So that's the whole soccer, landscape, let's call it. This is the same idea, but it's internally. It's for the club, basically. How a player starts at the grassroots, U4 to U8, and the different pathway he goes within the club. Okay, and then if you look on the right here, this is the outside of the clubs that some of our players can eventually aspire to. Okay, so again, all on our website. Important as well is the club coaching pathway, also on our website. This is important because with the new reform, as you know, many of you had to do courses and some of you still have to do courses. There's requirements for coaching certain levels now, what you need. So this is a general diagram of how it works basically and what they're looking for. So down here are what you used to know or still are the S courses, the S1, S2, S3, S7. Which the S for this conversation, it's pretty much the S2 and S3 or S3 especially is most relevant to the age group we're going to be discussing, and then you'll have the license C here, and then everything else that goes on top of it. Okay, so for those who don't know this or who are have questions, you can contact me because you do need, if you don't already have. You're going to need this to coach, depending on what level you're coaching and what age you're coaching. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the main topic of the evening, which is the CDC in general for 2022. We'll start for those because there's some new people, new coaches on the call. In general, we'll discuss the CDC concept and the structure. Okay, so the CDC programs, they've shifted away. We have shifted away from coach-led teams and shifted towards centralized training and station-based practices with certified coaches. So this is an example here. Our practices or our sessions for the CDC, which is we do this at U4, but for the purpose of this conversation, it's mainly U9 to U12, but even U4 to U8, it's now a station, a leader, a supervisor, we call it, with stations. 2, 3, 4, or whatever the numbers are being run by coaches, and there's rotation among stations, and there's the grassroots manager overseeing the whole thing, and the responsable de plateau, the station supervisor, hands-on supervising the stations here. Okay, so that's the setup. Many of you are familiar with it already, and it's linked with the technical plan and the CSA long-term development plan. So again, just a reminder. This is, for those, again, who are new, is important. There's a lot of important information. It just tells you year by year, age group by age group, the CDC structure approved by Soccer Canada, which we're part of, what the criteria is. Okay, and the main things to note over here would be the formation des éducateurs d'atelier. This is to be a coach at the CDC, even just coach a station. This is the licenses that you need here. So for the age group. So this row and column is important. The number of practices in a CDC format is also important. Okay, well, I mean, maybe not. We already provide you with all this, so it's just for you to know. And the ratio is important for the coaches, coach to player ratio. Okay, so again, these are all things that I do and behind the scenes, so you don't need to worry about this. You just need to. The main thing for the coaches is to know, to be familiar with it, and to know the level of certifications that you need. Okay. Again, continuing with the concept of the CDC, no more tryouts for U4 to U12. It's open to everyone according to the limit we have in our capacity in the club for the program. There's certified staff with CSA standards. There's station-based training focused on the 4 pillars of development at this age, at least, which is technical, physical, psychological, and social. And there should be little player movement from U9 to U12 because, again, anybody who has a provincial or a national license is following the same CSA standard. So it's not like it's not performance, it's not results based. Like I'm going to go to another club at U9 because they win. Like the program is the same. I mean, there's different ways of carrying it out, and you might have, coaches are different, but the format is the same. Our CDC, specifically how it works, is similar to last year. So it's 2 to 3 times a week, depending on the age group. Okay, U9, U10 is 2 times a week plus the game, the regional game. U11, U12 is 3 times a week plus the game. One of the 3 practices at U11, U12 can be more team-based rather than station-based, just to get some shape and preparation for the game coming up on the weekend. Typically, we use an 11-a-side field, and we have 3 stations per half. Those 3 stations on each side. It's typically 15 minutes a station and more or less 10 players a station. So that's the setup that we've usually and try to continue to have. We have 1 supervisor. Okay, for typically we try to have 1 supervisor per half. Sometimes we have 1, depends on the numbers as well. We have 1 coach per station, and that's leading the station. That's actually running the drill, the station. And then we have an assistant that is helping him, that we encourage some of the assistant coaches to also be present at the CDC. All station head coaches, we discussed this is the same or following the same format as last year, where we did a bit of a revolution and an investment in our staff, both training-wise and monetarily. All the station head coaches, okay, the ones who are assigned the station to run the station are paid. Okay, you fill out a timesheet, same process as last year. And the assigned game day coach, okay, which you'll see later on, is also paid. Okay, so just to reiterate, that was already in place last year. The programs and the sessions are provided to you by me. Maybe Gilles as well will start getting involved, but it's all this to say that the program, the sessions, the drills are all given to you like they always have been. So it's just up to you to know them, study them, think of progressions, and come prepared. The equipment is provided for the CDC, meaning we have a storage container that has all the equipment that we need to run the CDC. So you don't need equipment for the CDC, but you do need some equipment for your game day. So the game day coaches will be given basic equipment that you might need for the game day, a couple of balls for the warm-up, pennies, cones, whatever you don't already have. But some of you are, well, many of you are returning coaches, so you might. But if not, just let the club know and we could loan you some equipment in the meantime. The stations are usually set up in this format. There's a warm-up, small warm-up station. Everybody does their warm-up at their first station. Then there's a physical literacy station, general movements, stuff with the ball, coordination, agility, that kind of stuff. Then there's an analytical station, a bit more focus on a specific theme, repetition, either in a game format or in a an analytical format in terms of repetition. We try to keep it more towards the game, but there can be instances where there's a bit, we want to get something really repetitive. It might not be in a game format. And then there's a small-sided game at another station, and then there's a game at the end. So preferably according to the level that you're playing. If it's 7-a-side, if you're a 7-a-side age group, you would play 7v7 at the end, and so forth. Okay. So this is typically how we would set up. Okay, it would be a station. These are the 3 stations on a half, 3 stations on a half. This was taken, I left it in because this was during COVID when it was more present. We had a specific layout that we might keep. We're not sure yet how many of the things we'll still keep or that will be mandatory. So I just left it there. Basically, the entrance is over here. Okay, there's typically a monitor right here. We've always had a monitor in the past. I'll speak to Andrew Maya to see if we continue that. With the increased use of Team Snap, a lot of the stuff, the monitor was important during COVID, especially when it was mandatory. A lot of the stuff is done through Team Snap with the coaches, so we'll discuss the whole monitor situation and we'll let you know, but it would be here, the entrance, okay? This is PDS, by the way, so you come in from here, the part of the school is here, parking is here, they come through here, okay? And they come out of here, okay? So, and these are the 2 halves with the 3 stations per half. Okay, so this is just an idea of how the CDC is set up. A second layout of a CDC that we have done, we typically do it more for micro, but we always able to adjust as if we just split the field in thirds, and it's half, and every third has a half. 2 groups on a third, basically. This is another layout. Again, this is more for myself, Andrew, the grassroots, Gilles, to consider according to numbers when we get final registration numbers. It's good if you know, but it's mainly our responsibility. So to let you know what layout we'll use. Okay, so for 2022, some program details for this CDC. It starts April 24th and September 25th. Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong. These are the latest dates you gave me, but I think they're accurate.
Yeah,
okay.
Pretty much within a day or 2. Yep.
Yeah. The CDC practice sessions will be during the week at PDS, the turf, the whole summer. Players will be placed in groups by May 1st. I'll explain that later on because it falls into the game format. Player evaluations conducted in March, July, October. So this is also new. I'll explain it in the next couple of slides. The coaches' practices for U11, U12, your 3rd practice a week, will be Thursday or Friday nights, depending on the group. The league, the regional Lac St. Louis League for the CDC teams will start in mid-May and end in September. Total 14 games, and they're Saturday and Sundays. If I'm not mistaken, I think the boys are mainly Saturday and the girls are mainly Sunday.
Yep.
Okay, so player placement for practices and games. So basically, for practices, okay, players will be grouped according to different criteria. Okay, they can be grouped according to different criteria. These criteria can be balanced, like we've done in the past. It can be by physical characteristics, or it can be by ability. Okay, the grassroots manager can adjust as needed depending on the session. So from a social element, it's important that players play with different players and get to know, have different friends and that kind of stuff. So at the practice, okay, it could be either or. It depends on the session. If we're doing a session in which physical, sheer size for a 9-year-old, and we put them together because the exercise requires that, that could be one way of doing it. If it's by ability, because it needs to be by ability, technical, whatever, then it's by ability. And sometimes it'll just be balanced because depending on the exercise we do, it might not matter how they are placed. Okay, but the majority of it would be probably ability, if I had to guess for now. Why? Because it brings me to my next point, which is the bigger change compared to past years. So for regional games, players will be placed in teams according to ability. Okay, so there's pools now. Okay, we'll call them pools of teams, and we submit teams into pools depending on how we think, or where the region thinks they should be and where we think they should be. based on what we see, past situations, etc. So the players are evaluated throughout the program, and they're switched between teams, groups continuously if needed. Okay, so it's not that you're placed in a team that is in a pool and you stay there forever and it's a set roster. No, it's continuously open, up and down. Players move continuously depending on their progress. So it's an open roster concept, both up and down between the teams in the different pools. Okay, is that clear, Andrew? Is that clearly explained?
Yeah, no, that's good for me. The idea is that there will be players maybe mostly playing on the first team and mostly playing on the second team or group, whatever you want to call it. But there will be definitely movement throughout the year, up and down, and the parents need to be made aware of that.
Yeah, and the movement again is according to the development. There might be players who probably will stay on one of the teams because that's their their level. Yeah, but there's maybe 5, 6 that are up and down continuously, for example.
And depending on the sizes of groups, there might be players that might be needed to play on 2 games or 2 teams. Yeah, and again, on occasion.
Yeah, and again, this is a bit more relevant. Well, I mean, maybe lately the situation's changed a bit for the girls' side, but this was more relevant for the boys, where there was 2, sometimes 3, but mainly 2 teams per group because of the numbers. The girls traditionally had 1 team per group, so there was no selecting, making by ability. It was what it was, but now there's multiple groups in the girls, so it might be relevant there as well. So this is one of the new aspects that we're introducing. Okay, player evaluation form. Okay, that is continuous throughout a player's career. Let's call it at Dollard. This is an example. It's not an official one. This is one example. Andrew's trying to work on something that might be more interactive, that might be more app-based or computer-based, that rather than an Excel format. But the idea, whatever the format is, the idea behind it is that we're doing a follow-up to be able to have a player profile for every player who enters the system, starting at U9 to U12, and they'll have a player profile that every year, if you see, okay, so this is player 1, for example, you have the name, and this whole Excel document would be the age group of 2012, just an example, right? And every 2012 player will have a tab with their names, with this evaluation form. And every year, and that's their player profile. And we have a database of all 2008s, all 2010s, 11s, whatever it is, right? And the evaluations are here. So 1, 2, 3. There's 3 every year. These are the criteria. These are the color codes that coincide. And these are the evaluations we try to do. We try to do them in March because it's towards the end of the winter, which would give us an idea of how to group players for the summer season. Then we do it again midsummer around July to see any progress that was made. And then again, it justifies any movement of players with coaches, parents, etc. Okay. And then we do it again at the end of the season, closer towards the end of September, October, where we see the progress after the 3rd evaluation. And then we see what needs to be worked on or where they are going into the winter training again. Okay. So that's the idea behind it. The coaches. So again, just to be clear, Gilles, one of Gilles' main responsibilities to oversee this. So Gilles and on the boy side, Andrew on the girl side, oversee this in terms of making sure it's accurate, it's smooth, it's up to date. But they might be asking for coaches, opinions and feedbacks to help, fill this out accurately. Okay, and I know most of the players anyway, so I'll be involved. But just so that we're clear on the process. It would be probably on a shared platform, like on a shared drive or somewhere where those who are responsible for it could have access to it, and maybe even the coaches could see it. We'll see how we do that, but it will be somewhere that everybody, it'll be somewhere visible because it's important that there's this kind of follow-up. Okay, we have the resources now to start taking the next step into higher levels of doing things. So this is one of the areas that is important, in my opinion. So now we're to the CDC games, so the competition, okay? So basically, the games that are part of the CDC program are now designed to group similar ability-based players together in the appropriate level of competition. So in the past, last year, for those who were there, half the season was balanced teams, like you major team, you know, some stronger, some weaker, it was balanced out. This year, all the games are ability-based, okay? Teams are placed in the appropriate groups within the league structure. We discussed this in the previous slide to ensure that there's meaningful competition. So, and again, the rosters for the games are not fixed, and player movement between the rosters can and should be modified. We'll get into meaningful competition later on, but before we do that, I'm just going to go through since we're in the competition area, we'll go through the competition format because there was changes. Okay, so important to note. I sent you all these documents. You should have all read them because it's important. So I won't go through every single page because I sent them, but I'll go through the main points that I took out of that. Okay, so the main thing is the changes apply this year to only U9 and U10, just to be clear. Okay, U11, U12 is the same as it was last year. It's only changing in 2023. Okay, so the main things that are changing at U9, U10 would be the temps de jeu. It's no longer 2 halves. It is now 4 times 12 minutes. Okay, and we'll explain. Well, the reasoning behind this is there's a lot of reasoning behind it. So one of the reasoning is that they play for 12 minutes. They play for 12 minutes. Okay, and there's feedback in between the periods rather than coaches screaming instructions or yelling instructions during the game. And have feedback that they think is constructive but might not be taken in. Okay, so one of the main reasons behind that. Okay, also for the changes. Okay, it's not hockey in the sense that you should not be changing a player every 2 minutes. They need to get in the flow of things, right? So if a player plays like even the whole 12 minutes. Okay, I don't think there's a problem with that. They need to get used to playing and getting in the flow of things. Okay, so it also facilitates changes and players playing for a decent amount of time without, you know, having to manage the changes and having subs every 2-3 minutes. Okay, ligne de retraite. This again, so the retreat line. Okay, we're familiar with it. I think it moved a bit. It's in the video, they'll show you. But Gilles, tu m'avais dit que ça bougeait comparé à I think it moved a bit from last year.
Ouais, c'est ça. C'est un peu plus près de la ligne médiane. C'est
Okay.
un peu plus loin du gardien.
Yeah, so it's a bit closer. It's a bit more back, basically. This is another big change. Okay, so the goalie, there's no just punting the ball out. It has to try to play on the ground. And again, all these rules have been sent to the referee department, so they should be aware of it as per that email you saw that went out from the region. Another big change is the remise en touche. So you don't need to. It's not a throw-in anymore. It's you could dribble it in or pass it in, basically. Again, there's videos of all these things in the documents I sent you. Okay. And the rest of the stuff is really, it's more city department with the fields and that stuff. So those are the main changes for U9, U10. Also,
Mario, just to clarify, Mario, for the substitutions, they still can substitute in the period. It's just that the idea of the breaks would be you should also do a substitute at the break time.
The main substitutions should be done at the break time, but you can substitute during the game as well, just like the previous rules in the past. This is also now, if I'm not mistaken, a rule that the referees are being trained on according to the region. It's no longer a suggestion. I think it was a suggestion last year. If you're leading by 5 goals, you could add a player on the field. The losing team adds a player on the field. So that's these are some of the ideas that they came up with, but that's the one that I believe they're enforcing. Yeah, exactly. So 5 goal difference, you could add the ref will tell you now to add a player on the field. Okay, now meaningful competition. Again, this was part of the document that I sent you along with this stuff here. Basically, they want to make sure, or we want to make sure, that the coaches are aware of the definition of significant competition. Okay, it's based upon, it's always back to the idea that at this age group, it's about fun, development, a lot of touches on the ball, experimentation, expressing yourself, not the results. So a game that finishes 21-0 is not significant competition. Nobody learned anything. A game that's 4-3 might be significant, right? So that's kind of the message, basically, and it starts with everybody, with the leaders, the staff, the coaches, the parents, even, to understand the whole concept behind trying to have significant competition. And with the balanced teams last year, I guess that was the intention, but it kind of got away from that. It also wasn't perfect. So maybe, by ability, and again, it might have been for various reasons. Maybe, not everybody was on the same page or following the way it had to be done. But by placing players by similar ability, hopefully, it'll try to eliminate some of those insignificant games. Okay. Again, the rules are made for significant competition. So all these rules we saw here, okay, is all for rhythm of the plus de rythme dans le jeu, plus de touches de balle pour les joueurs. Like, it's all related. Like, we're doing this, or the federation is implementing this for these outcomes. Okay, so that's the relation between the rule changes and the significant competition and the development. I'll leave this up a minute. You guys want to see it?
Yeah, Mario, it's Ellie. I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just concerning the significant competition.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, every year there's always a couple of incidences that happen in regards to teams running up the score, or being very competitive, whereby the significant competition really doesn't apply to them. What would be some of your recommendation or suggestion, or some tools that you can provide, maybe some of the coaches, in terms of what to do and what they can do, during, before, or after the game, if such situations occur?
Okay, good question. Did you just get on the call, Ellie?
About 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, so you didn't hear my part that all questions are at the end because we're recording it. Right?
Sorry about that.
But it's fine. Since you ask, there's besides about the running up the score, besides the fact of now it's the referee's obligation to add a player on a team or remove a player, some of these suggestions that they have, but one of them of adding the player is actually a rule now, so you play with one player more. Besides that, the fact they did a study in the fact of when we played games by ability based and not balanced, the difference in scores was less than when it was balanced. Right, so the sheer fact of grouping players by ability in the pools that they're supposed to be put in, hopefully will help solve the problem. Then, in addition to that, it's here. Actually, it's to my next slide. Is the role of everybody involved, right? Whether it's the referee, the coaches, the parents. It was it's expected to be that. In relation to your question, it's expected to be that we need to get to a point where there's communication that either a coach or the referee or TDs or whatever it is can go and speak to the other coach or the other TD and say, listen, you guys are whatever, like you said, we're running up the score. Maybe the coach should do something like, even with one player less, they might still be too strong and, make 5 passes, 10 passes before you score a goal. So whatever it is, the communication has to be better. So yes, you should bring anything that's not kosher up to my attention, and maybe, again, depending on the relationship, and hopefully it'll improve between coaches, that it could even be something that is done in a friendly manner, suggestions, and say, is it okay if we're not playing the World Cup here, right? So if you say, hey, is it okay if I put a second extra player on, right? I don't think anybody's going to say anything to you if it's 13-14-0, So these are some ideas, but again, yes, you should bring up anything to our attention that's not that's against this whole 4 points that I see that I mentioned here, which is the whole point of everything, which is the fun development exploration, not result based. Anything that you think is detrimental, you should bring it up to my attention.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. And back on this slide again, we ask that we're patient with the refs, because I know it could be frustrating sometimes, but they're now learning new rules for this new, especially at U9, U10. So they might be also coaching the players on the field, right? It's not, the point is not you messed up your retreat line, or you didn't, or you kicked, or goalie, you kicked the ball, you punted it when you're not supposed to. It's a penalty shot. No, it's not to punish them. He might be patient and say, you know what, goalie, put it down and explain the process the first couple of times instead of it being punitive. So there's a referee aspect, education aspect as well. There's an educator, coaches aspect of it as well, right? Where we're, and again, to Ellie's point, it says right here, it's again, compétitionné, match significatif. So it's up to us to manage it if we are winning 7-8-0 as well. So it's actually in the document here. And then there's the parents, managing the parents, which is one of our roles as the coaches, in terms of making them understand that it's not a perfect system and there might be games that are lopsided, even if it's not our intention, and to, respect the referee and in his apprenticeship process as well, and all that. So it's all stuff that is in the documentation I sent to you guys, this included, and it gives you some of these ideas of how to manage it so that we have significant competition. Okay, next is the CDC game club formation identity. So again, this is standard. It's not optional. Gilles is aware of it. This is what everything is based on. Okay, 7-a-side is 2-3-1. 9-a-side is 4-3-1. Okay. Well, these players here and this player here should be would push higher up, but just to give you an idea. We're not going to get too much into this because it's something we're not going to get the whole tactical debate for this age group, but we will touch upon more of these things as we get closer to the season, especially at U11, U12 for those who have the extra session for the team session. Philosophy. Okay, we always look to play forward if we can. Sideways is the second option. Backwards is always the last option. Okay. Possession is to penetrate. We look to penetrate when we possess. It's not just for fun and making the ball turn for no reason. Strong 1v1 defending is the main priority that we just want to instill in everybody at this age group. Okay. It's the basic. It's especially U9, U10. Okay. It's not about block defending in a zone on a high press. It's just to start with strong 1v1 defending mentality and defending skills. Okay. Yes, then 2v2, but you get the idea that it's the basics. This is important. This is probably the most important one for this. Okay. We want to be a club. My philosophy is positive play and improvisation. Okay, you want to promote that at a young age. If they try to dribble somebody and it's the right choice and they mess up, who cares? It's fine. You need people, you need players who are creative, take risks at the appropriate time, and make them make mistakes and explore. Okay, so positive play and improvisation. So trying something, a back heel near the net because you can't, something like that is a good thing, especially in zone 3 and 4, which is, for those who don't know, it's the zone, it's in the offensive half, closer to the net. Okay, so you're promoting that. It's not getting mad or angry because he tried something fancy and it didn't work. Like, we need to start having more creativity. Otherwise, the game becomes, it's tough. Maybe not at this age, but it sets the foundation for the future. And when you get to the future, for those who watch higher end soccer games, professional, you sometimes need moments of improvisation to break a game loose. Otherwise, they'll just be passing around 100 times without moving anywhere. You need moments and players who make a difference. And if we could produce just 1 or 2 every couple of years, it's a good thing. Okay. Tournaments. So tournaments could be fun and beneficial if done properly and not exaggerated. So CDC and game schedules need to be taken into consideration, and they're the priority, obviously. You're not missing a practice or a game to go to a tournament. But a tournament could be a good additional event if everything works out. More than 2 tournaments a summer probably starts being excessive, especially if you start looking at the schedule that's out there for many of the programs. And again, the tournaments need to be approved by the club. Okay, I need to know everything of what's going on, what tournament is at. We need to know. We can't just hear through somebody that a team is there and we don't know anything about it. This is all in the coach's code of conduct, by the way. It's all in the coaching contract, so it's nothing new. We just need to be aware, and tournaments need to be approved. And if I'm not mistaken, the office also needs to know, because I think there might be permits or travel stuff involved for some tournaments.
Yeah, travel permits are going to be required, Mario, for as long as it's outside of Lac Saint Louis, and regardless, the club needs to know. And if when people sit down to start looking at tournaments, it would be a good time to have a conversation with myself, probably, because if there are conflicts in the way or games, we may be able to work with the other clubs to rearrange CDC games in order to open up weekends, so that we don't lose out on anything.
Okay. Next is CDC parent and player expectations, a conversation that you should all have at some point with your players, parents, managers, whoever's helping. Okay. So Team Snap is the main planning tool for the groups. You need to ensure that the child's status is updated all the time, timely fashion. Players need to be there. You have to start setting a precedence. Last year, we had too many situations that players showing up 20 minutes after the practice. Like there needs to be some seriousness into this program. It can't just be an activity where it can be just an activity, but there has to be some seriousness. It's not just somewhere I'm going to show up 30 minutes late, drop my player off, drop my son off because I'm going to the store and it gives me something to do. Like there has to be some expectation out of it. So we are looking at 15 minutes. They should arrive before the session. Okay, depending on how late they are, we might. We've done this last year because it was becoming excessive. We might have them wait on the side and join into the next activity because the group can't stop. It's not the end of the world maybe now, but last year with COVID and sign-in procedures and that, it was difficult to have to leave the group and go sign in somebody because they came 15, 20 minutes late and start asking the health questions and all that. Okay, so this is important. For games, I would say 30 to 45 minutes ahead of the game. Plan accordingly for away games, and please bring both jerseys. I'm telling you this because now this year in the club's registration for all teams, you're all being given 2 jerseys that are yours now. The home and the away. So there's no more alternate that the club holds. You all get 2 jerseys. You need to have them with you at all time.
Mario, just on the second jersey there was a thought that I had passed that maybe the coaches would hold the white jerseys, because if we use the example of the pennies, how many kids start forgetting their pennies through the winter or through the summer? It may be a better idea for the coaches to hold the whites for the summer, give it to the kids at the end of the summer.
Doesn't bother me. It's whatever works for you. You could speak with the parents, see what they want. If the coach sees a trend that requires this kind of action, doesn't do anything for me. So I mean, it's okay. Doesn't change anything. So that's fine. Point 3 was the parents, if they don't stay for the activity, they need to ensure they are at the field when the activity ends, as the coach must stay. Exactly. So the coaches are typically we don't leave a player, especially a young player, there by themselves. So parents need to be there on time to not force the coach to keep waiting behind. And the last point was about getting assistance, making arrangements, all that, and we could use Team Snap to do that. It's a communication tool. It's always up to date. We should use it as much as we can. There was something else though. Let me just. Yeah, it's here. We'll get to it later. So actually, you know what? I can get to it now just because we're talking about it. So 2 game jerseys are provided by the club. Okay, this part's important. And please ensure players have a blue practice t-shirt and a penny, just like last year. The difference is that last year, first year we implemented this was because of COVID, because we didn't want to start, we want everybody to have their own shirt, their own penny, all that stuff. So we implemented it, but it seemed to work. So everybody should have a blue practice t-shirt and a penny. We didn't put it in the registration this year because some of you already have it. So it wasn't fair to impose to buy it. We might do it in the future, however, that in registration with the 2 game jerseys, you're also always given a t-shirt and a blue t-shirt and a penny, just because the cost doesn't seem to be significant from our provider to do so. So we might, going forward in the future, we might just give all of this in the registration cost. But for this year, if you have a blue t-shirt and a penny, good for you. If you don't, you need to ensure you have one. I'll speak, Maya's on the call. I don't know if either we could discuss it later, but the idea was, to my knowledge, you could either order this on our online store, the t-shirt for sure, I know you can, and the penny can either be ordered, Maya, I don't know if you could put it as an option on the registration and then we can give it to them straight from our equipment room, or if you also want that to go through the online store. Either way,
yeah, the
we can
idea
handle
was
it.
to do it through the online store.
Okay. The only issue with the online store, the t-shirts are there, I know, right? We might have extra t-shirts in the equipment room that are already on hand instead of waiting for the delivery. We'll talk about it offline. And the same with the penny. We might have pennies at our location without having to add it to the online store, but we'll keep you posted. We'll figure it out. The point is, by the time it starts, everybody needs to have a t-shirt and a penny. Registration. Okay, so registration is now open, and you need to register ASAP. Why? It's important because, number one, we need to order jerseys and we have to know how many, and number two, the team. So we made a prediction based on what we thought, right? So just to confirm our ideas about how many teams, the pools, all that stuff, we need to have a realistic idea of everybody registered. So coaches, if you haven't already, just ensure that everybody who's on your team snap, whoever's part of your group, is registered and everything is ready to go. Okay. Since we're on this, Maya or Andrew, anything else regarding any of this stuff before I switch?
It's just if any of the coaches would want some current list of registration lists, they could reach out to myself or Maya. We could provide them with a current list of players in case that they want to double check what they have versus what's on their team snap or what they're expecting.
Okay. Perfect. The tournaments we discussed, this we discussed.
Yeah.
Perfect. So now the last thing is the CDC and the staff schedule. So what I'll do is I'll go through it just quickly, and then we'll stop the presentation with the recording, because any questions that might follow regarding scheduling and all that might, not be relevant to the general scope of the presentation. So basically, we operate Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the CDC practices. Okay, so the M9s, the M's, the boys, will be Monday and Wednesday are their 2 CDC practices. Okay, M9, M10 at 6 o'clock, M11, M12 at 7:30. So this is the same, if I'm not mistaken, as last year. It's pretty much exactly the same as last year in the sense of 6 to 7:15, 7:30 to 8:45 for the boys on Monday, and the girls are on Tuesday. The group there's more girls, but the idea is the same in the sense that it's 6 to 7:15 on Tuesday, with the stations through with a coach per station. Again, whatever you see here is what we did, is preliminary. Some is accurate, some is preliminary. We didn't get answers from everybody in terms of availability yet, so we had to plug in names according to what we know, experience, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's still some of it is workable. The idea, however, is if you look, anybody who has a station next to them is the station coach. So I'll just take an example, right? If we have Eddie, it's station 1 for the U9s, Andrew station 2, Justin station 3. These are paid staff, right? But then there's other coaches here that you might have as your assistants that can also be there helping you, right? But we can't pay everybody like we discussed. We're not a professional club there, so we already made big strides. So same as last year, we paid the station head coach. And then, you know, if there's and just like we do with our competitive teams, if there's anything that arrangement between a station head coach can't make it and an assistant wants to takes over and he's assigned that station and he puts the time on his timesheet, then that's fine. But the idea behind it is the station coach here is the paid one, and the game day coach in green here. So just to clarify, whoever is in green is the game day coach, one of the teams of that age group. That's also paid. Okay. And I'll send you for those who don't have it, I'll send you the timesheet again with criteria, right, of how much of what you're charging, right? It's the same as last year. Okay. It's the time of the game plus I think we gave 15 or 30, I'm not sure, minutes before the game as well for the paid time for the game. And the CDC is the same thing. It's the time you're working plus the arrival time. I think it was 10 or 15 minutes. I need to double check, but I'll send it out. So that's what these colors and these numbers mean. Okay, blue is nothing. Forget the blue. Blue is just some of the ones we're waiting for confirmation on. Okay, some of you are not here because, again, there's other programs, questions that need to be had with some of you for availability, right? An example, Gilles, Joe are welcomed and we want them to the CDC on Tuesday, but they have LDP stuff, right? So all this is not easy to do when you have so many programs with only one field, basically, because we don't use $2 at full capacity as much as we do PDS. So it's tough to fit every single program in and balance things around. And Andrew does it probably the best of anybody in the region for sure. So, I mean, if this is what we came up with, it's probably, I'm 99% sure it's the best solution out there, okay, when we balance everything out. Yeah, that's it. So basically Monday, Wednesday, where's the third for the boys, Andrew? What day is the third practice?
The boys is on a Thursday at Westminster,
yeah,
and the girls is a Friday at Westminster, okay, which is their game field.
Okay.
And the boys play Saturday, so it's a day between the games, and the girls play Sunday, so they have Saturday between the games and at their third practice.
Okay. Well, we'll discuss this more after we finish the recording. I'm just going to run
problem.
through. This is the schedule, CDC staff schedules for recreational games and CDC team practices, which is what Andrew was talking about. It's probably here he meant.
It's the bottom, exactly.
Yeah, here. So these are the third practice for the M11, M12, and the F11, F12. And the rest here, it's not really applicable to us because, well, maybe it is to Gilles, but not for many of you because these are the recreational, the house league games.
Game slots, yeah.
It's just to give an idea on the schedule, but it's not applicable to many of you. This is applicable, a bit more applicable. This is the micro schedule for the games, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This is the micro games, okay? And this is the micro CDC. So U4 to U8 CDC, which we used to have on Saturday last year, is now on Sunday, okay? And the staff that we have confirmed, most of the people here have confirmed with me already. So these are the 8 or 9 staff members with Gilles, okay, who are doing the U4 to U8 CDC. So it goes from 9 to 3:30. Yeah, 3:30, right? Yeah. So yeah. 9 to 3:30. It's my mistake. It's not only U4 to U8 like it was last year. We're also adding U9, U10, and U11, U12, but they're combined groups, so it's not one per group. For the recreational, recreational teams at U9 to U12 also get one CDC session. So we're just put them in all together in the last slot of the Sunday, right after the U4 to U8 micro. Okay, and again, this is a good idea, but it's also tentative because we put numbers in here. We don't know until we see the registration if these are the real numbers. We might have to, cut it short, cut it long. I mean, it depends on merge stuff. It depends on the numbers we get. Okay, so and this is at PDS also. Okay, this is at PDS, and during the week, these games are the mainly volunteer coaches at micro. Those volunteer coaches at micro, U4 to U8, are also here assisting the staff, because they're small kids, bringing them from station to station, etc. And getting some, exposure and training so that when they go to their games during the week, right? And it's a micro game, right? It's like pickup soccer. You just go there and you play. So they at least they have some idea of managing, substitutions, for example, right? So, and those are the volunteer coaches who are at these micro games during the week, okay, at a micro field. Okay, but again, this is not for many of us on the call. It's mainly for Gilles, me and Andrew, and the staff, some of the girls from the AAA team and the other staff for Sunday. Okay, good. So for the questions section, what I'll do now is I'll stop the recording. Thanks for listening in. I'll stop the recording now, and then we can get to questions.